Let's talk about it. 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 On the field.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited to have you here today. And I'm especially excited that one of my friends, she's coming on again. I'm so excited because my guest, Attorney Charles Tyler, had an emergency client that came in, so he was not able to come on today. But thank God for my guest, Miss Yvonne Campbell. How are you, Gamble? I said Campbell. How are you
So
today?
I am wonderful. I am doing wonderful. It's so nice to be here. And, as always, anytime you call, if I'm available, I'm going to be there.
Well, you are a blessing. And thank God you can talk about what we were going to talk about today. So I'm excited. We're talking about leaving a legacy to those you love and estate planning and protection. Now, Miss Gamble has such a vast resume and bio, and I'm going to share some of her bio with you, but she's going to talk about her experience dealing with estate planning and asset protection. The Right Honorable Lady Yvonne E. Gamble is a venture capitalist, the CEO of San Pete Financial Group, which is a venture capital firm specializing in infrastructure development. She is also the senior partner for Platform Capital Group, an accelerated hub. She's also the founder of Simplified Knowledge Institute and Mohamed. Messed that
Only
up.
man.
Okay, and that's PPE supplier, Minister of Finance for Numi Kingdom, and just so much, so much. I could go on and on and on about her her resume and her bio. But one of the other things that we're going to talk about as well is her involvement with the United Nations Conference on the Status of Women, the goals and the parallel events. So we're going to talk about that. We've got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And plus an event that's coming up, she's going to be talking about that as well. But right now, I'm going to give you the floor and let you share your experience and background as it relates to estate planning and asset protection.
Okay. Well, excellent, excellent. Thank you. Actually, early on, in my career, I worked for Central National Bank, which actually became LaSalle National Bank, and I was a land trust representative. And so I worked obviously in the trust department, trust and assets. And so therefore we were in charge of keeping all of the trust and assets intact for wills, for land, living trusts, wills and trusts. So any way that you really want to think about how your assets could get protected, that's what we did. And people could buy and sell property in and out of trust. And land trusts are things that still exist today, and we still have regular trusts and wills where you really want to protect your assets and be able to put them into those vehicles so that you can have that. And one of the beauties of putting money into a trust is a living trust. You can set that up so that your insurance policy actually what it will do to go into a trust, or your finances, what you have, your income that you have, you can put those monies into a trust, and then you can allocate as to when and who that monies will go into. So investments can go into there, and then your money is protected from litigation, and that sort of thing, so that it will be there intact when it's time for your family to actually receive those funds.
That is awesome. Now, one of my questions, because legacy building is such a big thing now. And there are so many of us, people of color, that have not thought about it or have not really done a lot to prepare and be and to plan for things for their families after they're gone. So, what would you say to someone that may be in their 50s or 60s and they know that they need to kind of look at that? What would you say to them, and what vehicles would you consider that they should consider in building that legacy?
If you're, I'm glad you asked that according to age, because truly, when you're thinking about you're doing your vehicle of savings, depending on when you start will depend on some products obviously can be used from the time you want to save from birth all the way up to death, and then other products depending on if you have not saved before would be more appropriate for you to start saving in. So if you are up in the age bracket of 50 plus, what you want to look at is a Roth IRA account. That's very good. You can save very aggressively into that account, and when you actually are doing that, you'll see your money begin to actually turn over very quickly into an investment. So what you want to do into a nice return on your investment, you want to start saving your money so that you can invest it and start investing money. Money that you have sitting in a savings account today in 2020 is actually you're actually losing money because you're only really getting an interest of about 1, maybe 2%. Whereas, in your parents' day, back 30, 40, 50 years ago, you could look at an average savings account and you could get anywhere from 7% up to maybe even 12% in just a standard savings account, not even aggressive savings. But that's no longer available. So you do have to put your money into something like a Roth IRA account, and you need to begin investing. So those two things would be the very first things that I would say that you really need to do. And you need to look at also your insurance policies that you have. Do you have term insurance? Do you have universal life? Does your insurance policy have a investment vehicle attached to it? These are what I'm telling you now are aggressive ways of savings so that you can build capital very quickly. Because if you're at 50, you may be looking to retire. Well, if that's 67, so you're talking about only 17 years. So that's not a long spread to when you actually will stop working. So you want to make certain that you have saved and enough money aggressively to take care of yourself for at least 10 to 20 years and maybe 30 years, because people are living much longer than in the past.
That's good to know. Now, in terms of insurance, because I know that can be a vehicle for building legacy. So,
Definitely.
in terms of that, can you kind of share, because our audience may not be aware of the preference, term or life?
Okay. When you think about term insurance, term means I will pay for this product for a period of time, for a certain term period. You can get you can get for, like, say, a 10-year term. So in 10 years, I've paid this off. So if it's let's say that's a $100,000 policy. In 10 years, that policy is paid off. That policy is worth $100,000. If you were to, so on and so forth, you can have, up and then have term 20 years, 15 years, 25, 30 years. A term meaning at a certain term point in time, I'm going to be completely paid in full on this policy. And then there are universal policies, meaning those you pay on until, even until the person's death. So you don't ever stop paying on that policy. The universal policies, people like that because generally, obviously, they're going to be less expensive, because depending on when you actually take that policy out, if you take it out, obviously, for a child, you're going to be paying very low. And even when you become an adult, because they factor that you have probably to about 80, 90 years of life. Whereas if you took it out at 70, well, they factor you at 20 years. So you're going to be paying a higher premium, for that. But that's universal. Now, with the universal products, what you do have is You have with those products, you generally will have a investment. Generally, with term insurance, you do not have investment vehicles attached to it, but you do have that with universal. They call those universal life policies, and those generally do have an investment rider that you can attach to it. And what that helps you to do is, because the thought is you'd be paying for it a longer time. If you're paying for it for a shorter period of time, just going to pay a higher premium, but you're not only getting the insurance, but you're also getting your money is also being invested.
So is universal and life two different things?
Life says the same thing. I can pay life until life you pay until the end of your life. And so when
Okay.
you think about it, yeah, so basically, a life insurance, if it's a life policy, that means you're going to pay that, your entire life. For universal, it may be a high. Think of term, universal, and life. Term, a certain period of time. Universal, I have insurance. I have investment vehicles, financial vehicles. A lot of people will use universal if they want to start a business in 5 years, and so then the money that actually was building up in those coffers from the investment, they may take that monies out and start a business with it. If it's life, well, I'm gonna pay that until the end of my life.
Okay, now let me ask you, I want to go back to term for a minute and ask you, once you pay that term off, do you still maintain that policy or is it over?
When you say, do you still have that? You're still living.
Yes, you're
Yeah, and
still living.
yes, and you have that policy. Yes.
Okay, okay. So once it's paid off, it's clear and you still have
You
that
own
money.
that policy. You own that policy full, you fully own that policy, and then you can use that policy for your insurance.
Okay,
And that's
that's
why some people have, oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
no, go
but
ahead.
some people will have more than one type of policy. And then that's where coming into that legacy, putting those policies into a trust. So what happens is, instead of, you might have two or three, if you remember, the older people, they had two or three, maybe four or five policies. And so what happens is, they weren't trying to pay for everything. They were trying to take some of that money and put that money into a trust, put that money into a heavy investment vehicle. And then when they put that money into there, that money built up over years, because now the money is being invested and turning over for year after year, as opposed to, you say, you just give 18-year-old a $500,000 or $1 million policy, cash, as opposed to, you take that money and you put that $1 million into an investment vehicle, a trust fund, a trust investment fund, and now you say you won't get this at 18, you'll get it at 30. Well, that's a nice piece of change at 30
Yes,
years old. And
yes.
not only is that's a very nice, monetary money's coming in. And then you could even set up even further in the trust. You can determine and say, you're going to get X amount every week, or I'm sorry, every month. You'll get a pay out, from that trust. So that trust now can take care of that child or that adult for the rest of their lives.
That's awesome. And so understanding how important it is to have these kinds of things in place. So you're talking about trust. So that brings me to the thought of wills. So oftentimes we don't do wills. So you want to kind of talk about how important that is when you're talking about building a legacy, maintaining the trust and all of that.
Sure. Write the will so we can stop the fighting at the funeral.
Amen.
Okay. That's it. That's
Amen.
that's my whole spiel on writing the will. Okay. Because it is simply ridiculous. It is not, it is not one group of people. It is not one social economic status of people. It is everyone, because they leave out of here and they have something. I don't care if you have a my I hate to even share this. I truly do.
Well,
And
share
I'm
it
sure I'll
anyway.
get backlash from it. But my father-in-law, God rest his soul, he passed, he was up in age and he passed away. And my husband and his sisters, they were fighting over, I think we got it, the mixer. The mixer. Yes. The one of those big um industrial mixers. I can't think of one of the I can't even think of the name brand that it is, but it's a mixer for crying out loud. And neither one of them bake bread, bake cakes, or nobody's doing that anymore. So it's not like it's but it's the sentimental value. I understood that. I couldn't say anything. I said to you all, to the public at large, I couldn't say anything to them. I would not
Right.
get into that. Like I say, stop the fight. Write the will, stop the fight. And so
Amen.
there were a few, he did have a will. Yes, he did. He had a will, but there were, a few items that were at the house that, man
We're
don't think
not in the will.
who gonna get who gonna get my mixer or what have you. He's not really concerned about that. But just that seemed to have created the biggest controversy of all.
Oh my
But
goodness.
so it gets, it's sentimental. It's
Yeah.
sentiment, something from daddy, that somebody else didn't get, but just write it, account for, everything that you could possibly think of, put it in there because that little thing that you think that means absolutely nothing. They're gonna fight about that. The big stuff that there's no fight. There's no question.
Right.
They're okay. Even if it's not included in there, they're splitting that up, doing it right. But those little things, they just go haywire.
And so I want to encourage our audience to really think about writing a will in detail. Now, there are templates I'm sure that you can probably pull off Google that
Oh,
will
you
help
can go
you get.
out to one of the ones that would kind of help you just to get started. I would suggest to people, just as a start, go to LegalZoom. Go to LegalZoom. You can get started. They're very good because uh, you know, go to that and at least just kind of get an idea. You can speak with someone there, Legal Shield. You can go if you don't want to, if you're not ready to go to an attorney, but you can do those, very inexpensively and just get an idea of what it all entails, what goes in, what should I be putting in, and what should I be, even thinking about or considering, as we're contemplating the writing of a will. So, those are areas that's a good start. And then yes, you need to have that go down, to a will attorney, and because those wills and those conveyances, that is so very very important. Who gets it and how it gets conveyed. That's it's more than just simply. A lot of times we think of, is it in the will, is it written, but it's also the other part of that is how that actually gets conveyed to that person and when. Because just because you got access, to that 200-acre farm, well, there may be, 10 or 12 caveats that you have to meet in order to get that.
This is great information. You're the right person to have here. Thank you, because my guest, he's actually my cousin as well, and he does these kinds of things, and so you're just helping him get information out. So I really appreciate that. Now, when we talk about asset protection, now you talked about the trust, you talked about the will. Are there some other asset protection tools or um, ideas that people might be able to take advantage of?
Well, really, what you want to do is beyond putting that into a trust, you really don't have many, you can put, because you can put everything into a trust. If you look here, I can put all my assets. I can put my money, cash money, real estate, real property, all those things I can put into a trust. Books that I write, rights, royalties, those sorts of things, all that can go into a trust. And then I can have that to determine what's actually going to happen with that. Other things that people use to protect their assets are safety deposit boxes. They have assets that are, offshore assets. They may store those, put those, financial assets into instruments. They may put them into or certificates of deposits, into savings bonds. They may put that into, investment, and then where they'll invest in a particular industry or a particular business or something. They can put that's also a way. A business is also a way to protect your assets, within a business. So there are many different vehicles when you're talking about protecting your assets. The question becomes, what type of asset are you trying to protect? What are you trying to protect it from? You can protect an asset, just from the usage of that asset. You can protect it to, you want to diminish your asset list, or you want to increase your asset list. Those will determine, what type of vehicles that you would actually place it into. So, and then you want to, have insurance, on those assets. So, depending on where you place it, will depend on the type of insurance that it's going to have. Something that's in trust would be different, than an asset that you had that, was not in a trust. So, all there's a lot of different things that actually go on that go with all of this. And today, this evening, it is well worth us, speaking to this. But this is a topic that we would, I'm sure your brother and myself would love to have you, kind of give us an opportunity to kind of chunk it up, and and talk about it, a little bit more detail, a little bit more granular. Trust, wills, assets, those sorts of things. People, good people, let me just tell you, that's not just something that you can just simply, she can give you a 5 point checklist and you check the boxes and you're done. It's no, it's a lot more goes into it than that.
Okay, so seeking a financial advisor or an attorney would be what you would recommend or suggest.
Definitely. I absolutely, everyone should have a financial advisor. Everyone should have a will attorney. You have attorneys for everything that we could possibly think of doing. There is a specialized professional attorney that actually handles that, and that's who you want to go to specifically when you're talking about wills and conveyances and trust. There's trust attorney, their will attorney, their conveyances attorney. Sometimes you will have an attorney who does will, who will also do the conveyances portion of that as well. So you want to check those things out. And these, it doesn't really cost you to go and have a conversation. And one of the good things is this: if you have banking relationships with some of the larger banks, you actually can go in and talk to some of their people in these various departments, and though their attorneys can talk to you if you feel comfortable, or you feel I'm going to be charged or not. And then they can definitely tell you, what are some of the best ways to protect your assets, to place your monies, so that not only it's not like you're just trying to hide it away. You're protecting it so that the money will, so as you gain assets, as you gain dividends and a return on that income is steadily building and is not being drained off either. You want to make certain and that's why you see some of the different financial institutions will say, well, you can say with us and protect your assets with us, and we don't charge all these heavy fees, like another one will do. So that's another part of it, is checking, what the fee structure is, the ongoing fee structure.
Okay, now I know we had briefly touched on this next topic that I'm going to mention when you were here in the first week in February. Um,
Okay.
so, are Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies, are they viable? Um, options for leaving as a part of a legacy or no?
Well, they are making their way to that point. Yes, they are making their way to that point. And the question is really going to be, yes, you can save them, but when 10, 20, 15 years from now, will they be valuable? And they may or may not be valuable, at that time, or they may be even more valuable. So to say, should I save them? Yes, you should. If you are investing and you are building up a cadre of wealth with them, definitely, put always when you're talking about investing, saving your money, investing, building wealth, building legacy, that is not something that you want to be in the habit of just simply, oh, today I'm going to do that, or this month I'm going to do that. That's something you want to be doing. That should be a part of you, of the fiber of you every single day in how you operate and what you do. Today I made X amount of dollars. I'm going to save away X amount. I'm going to invest a certain amount. I'm going to put something into my legacy building account. That should be done every day. I don't care if I made 10 cents today. I'm going to split that 10 cent up, because then what happens the next day I might make 10 million. So if I don't know how to split up that 10 cent and put that and have a spirit of savings, a spirit of investing, and a spirit of building wealth for the future, then when the 10 million comes, I'm going to be worse off than if I had nothing.
Absolutely. Now, we may have some people in the audience or people that will hear this in the future, and they're saying, I'm living hand to foot, hand to mouth. How am I going to save money? I don't have any. So, how am I going to leave a legacy when I really am barely surviving?
Well, I'll tell you this. You too can save money no matter what you are getting. The money, the lady, and they even did a movie on her, and she was in Mississippi, and she brought to Mississippi University, their black woman, older black woman, and she walked up there. She bought and she took to that college $500,000. And this woman had taken in, this was back in the 50s, 60s rather. She was taking in ironing. Never, went to school, never educated. She did ironing, she did washing, washing clothes, ironing clothes, sewing, just taking in work. And this is what she did after her husband had died. And she was there on the farm, kept her home, kept her farm, paid her taxes, paid all her bills. And then when she felt she was nearing the end of her life, she wanted to do something for the students. They had just integration was just coming there, and so she brought that up, and they put a scholarship there for she wanted, so these black students, these black children could go to school.
Yeah.
And when she pulled up there with that cash money and put it on the table,
Wow.
okay, so when you talk about bricks without straw, that's what my appetite is on somebody who says they don't have anything. We have made bricks without straw. We are still standing against the wind, against all odds, against everybody who has ever come up against you, and we're still standing. So if, like I said, if I made 10 cents, if I just found 10 cents laying around on the ground, or on the floor or something like that, I can save. And trust me, you keep putting that away and putting that away and put, if you don't put 2 cents away, 2 cent away, 2 cent away, and you go back and you look, you'd be like, wow,
Yeah.
it'll overwhelm you. Because what'll
Enlightenment.
happen is, what it will do to you, it does it to here, it does it to you cognitively, where you are saying, I have a savings, I am somebody, I am on my way to getting something, I'm on my way to having something, whatever that something is. I'm on my way to having it, or even just the independence, or just knowing I can save. And sometimes that savings is not just simply cash money. You may save something where you keep your clothing nice. and you save that, so that, or you save a suit, or you have something to give to someone else. That is also an investment that you have, because you're paying it forward.
Okay, well, let me acknowledge my guest. Hello, Vivian. She is asking, what's RDF about before retiring from an IRS this year? Do you know what
What is
RDF?
RDF? What's RDF about before retiring from an IRS? From an
Can you
IRS.
can you be a
Ask her,
little more
Vivian,
clear?
clear.
Can you restate your question? I'm not sure what
Are
an
you saying
I meant
retiring?
IRA. She said,
I think that's what I thought.
okay,
That's what I thought.
okay,
An IRA. Okay, I meant IRA.
okay. All right.
So what is? Tell her, put the first question up. Okay, or just write the question out again. She said, I
Yeah,
meant
rewrite
IRA.
the question. Rewrite the
Yeah.
question for us, Vivian. Thank you. Because we want to give you answers.
Answers.
And after we answer her question, I want to talk about this United Nations event that's coming up,
Oh
and
yes.
also
Oh my goodness.
another event that's coming up this Friday.
Friday. Oh yeah.
Honoring. So
That's
we got,
exciting.
yes, we got some things to talk about. So we're waiting for her to re rephrase her question. So what's IRF? Well, what is IRA about before retiring?
IRA is your individual retirement account. And is she talking about a redistribution of funds? Is that
Okay,
what she's referring? That's what it sounds like. She said, I saw RDF. I think
okay.
if she
Are
could
you
read.
talking about redistributing your funds, Vivian? Is that what you mean? How to redistribute what you have in your IRA? And what was the IRS part of that? Well, we're waiting for your response so that she
Yeah,
can
she'll come
answer
back
that
on. We'll,
question.
we'll
She'll
go
come
on.
back. Okay. So, which do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about the UN,
Oh,
because
okay.
you know what? You ladies have had me on. I have been taping. Oh, here she is.
Yes.
If you have an IRA account, I'm reading about taking money out of it this year.
Okay.
Is she 59 and a half?
She's a senior.
She's a senior.
Yes.
And so, okay, so what is her question then? She can take it as long as she's past 59 and a half, she can take the money out with any tax penalty. Is that
Okay.
what her
It's
question is?
You can take it out without a tax penalty. Is that what you're asking? And are you looking to try to invest it in something else, or are you asking about that as well? Okay, I'm sure she'll type in what she
Okay. Well,
wants
we'll
to say.
answer it in between. But
Yes.
I'm just having a wonderful, wonderful time with the United Nations. This is my organization, Women Leading Change Now. We are a political organization. But one of the things that we do on a regular basis is we have some fun. The United Nations convenes every year, and this is the 66th year that they are convening on the status of women. And so that's where you'll see UNCSW. All across the world are being held in connection with that parallel events. And we and our organization, Women Leading Change Now, we host one, and all parallel events are virtual events even prior to COVID, because it would be so many, and obviously the world can't come to New York as much as we would like to think it can.
Yes.
Okay, so just not that much room. So we convene our events, and so we are hosting that online. We would love for all of you to come. It is free to register. This year we're having 17 speakers. We're hosting those speakers across 12 days, and we're speaking on 39 different topics.
Awesome.
Our primary goal that we're talking about this year is goal number 13, and that's climate change. And so many of you already know that the climate change, it is here. It's not coming, not on its way. It's actually here. And we are doing what we can to deal with it. And of course, anytime something, disastrous or preparing for disaster, those sorts of things, women are, many times grossly affected simply because of not only because of income, but because they're also the household. Many times they're the ones to take care of the household and have to work at the same time. And so you can imagine the stress that it would put on you, worrying about. I don't even want to try to think or try to fathom, what it was like when that volcano blew up on Tonga here, and then when that tsunami
Yes.
hit the shores of Japan, what the women or the men or just the people in general, where their minds were. But now that has put the world on high alert. So there will be no more talk about, oh, there's no climate change. The ozone is not heating up. Nobody's listening to any of that rhetoric anymore. It is here. The oceans are heating up. The core is heating up. The glaciers are melting. We have several of the South Sea islands, have already gone under water, and they've had to evacuate people. New Zealand and Australia have taken in from the Karate Islands, those people there. That island will probably be by 2030, it will be gone for good. But now there's no one there at this point anyway, but the actual land mass, you won't see it anymore. So, these are the types of things that we're talking about. And we have women such as Vera. She's one of our
I'm
coming
so
on and speak.
excited. I'm
And
honored.
when they come on and they talk about it, and a lot of the women, I challenge you. I'm a challenger. I'm a strict challenger. And I will make you get outside of your comfort zone, because most of the women, everybody I chose this year, I did not talk to one meteorologist, no scientist, no atmospheric people, nobody who was in the industry at all. I talked to people, everyday businesswomen, everyday women, because I wanted to know, how does this impact your life? How does it impact your industry? And if you're not thinking about it, you need to be, because it's going to impact everybody. If
Yes.
I'm getting my goods and services from your country, and your country is now underwater, well, that's going to impact me.
Yes.
I may be a grocer over here, I may be a retail seller or what have you, of clothing. Well, guess what? I can't get my clothes. That's the reason why you're seeing the cost of goods and services are increasing exponentially, because many of these places are being affected, by the change in climate. So those are
Yes.
some of the topics that we will be covering, and I'll put it into the chat so that
Yes.
you can actually, link to us and register. And there's, like I said, when you go there, you will see. And we're also going to be having a roundtable discussion where we're the lifesavers. I'm the Lifesavers Ambassadors International, and I'm the USA Country Director. And we're going to have we do bespoke roundtables. We do for a year. So this will be our very first one. We're going to launch it here during the CSW. And so we'll have at that table 12 women, 14 women, I'm sorry, and they're going to speak directly into the topic. So if you don't get to any of the individual sessions, which will be going on between March 14th and March 25th, then you definitely want to, on that last day on the 25th, get to those, because it'll be broadcast all day long. So
Okay.
now her question. What is her question, Vera?
What is the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA?
Okay, very good. A Roth IRA is that, but that basically, you pay taxes. Actually, that's pre-taxed money. So that money that goes into there, you've already paid the taxes on before it goes into that savings vehicle. So when that money is actually taken out at its maturity, you do not owe any taxes. So if you put $10 in, the taxes is $1. You pay that dollar is already paid up front, and then $9 goes into the Roth IRA, so on and so forth. In a traditional IRA, you want to put $10 into. That $10 goes into that traditional IRA, and the tax on it does not occur until you take that money out. That's why they have the 59.5 rule. See, because at that point, your tax liability, the thought is your tax liability would be lower. Well, not so much today, because a lot of people are still working at the same clip, and they're not they may be nearing retirement age, but they're not nearing retirement. So it depends on, what your income is, your income level. You are going to pay taxes at that rate on that money coming out of that traditional IRA account.
Okay, so with the Roth IRA, the taxes are kind of built in to.
No, the taxes are paid before the money goes in.
Okay, and then with the traditional, you pay it after you
pay it. You pay it once you take it out. As soon as that money hits the air, Uncle Sam, he's standing in line first.
Okay, awesome. Okay. All right, so Vivian, I hope that answered that question. And if you have any other questions that we can address, that Yvonne can address, she knows about this stuff. She said, okay, thanks. Thank you. Now, I have started putting in March 14th through the 25th, United Nations Conference on the Status of Women. And where would they go for that?
Okay, I'm going to put that I'm pulling that up now. So just give me a chance to get that up. And then I'll put that into the chat.
Okay. And she said, yes, it did help. So thank you. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for your question. And that's what you have to do. That's what I want people to do. And that's what you want people to do is people, please continue to ask questions. Don't sit there and pretend like you know what this stuff is. Yes. Ask somebody. Everybody who either studied it, worked with it, or we work with it, on a day-to-day basis or what have you. We didn't do that because we didn't have nothing else to do that day. That was a lot of work. That was a lot of work. So use that mind. Get that knowledge.
Absolutely. And I know we've got an event coming up on Friday as well. While you're pulling up the information, let me run. Okay, there it is. Okay, hold on. Okay, awesome. Let me put it in here. Okay. Okay, I'm putting it in the chat. And I'm also going to put it on the banner so people can see it.
Okay.
Okay, and let me run that. Okay, awesome. Okay, and then this. Awesome. Okay, let me. Oh, it said an error occurred. Okay, let me.
I put it in the chat here.
Yes, I put it in the chat as well.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm also going to put it on the banner.
Oh, okay. There it is. Okay.
Okay. Is it showing?
Yes. Uh-huh. In the evening, celebrating Trina Parks.
Tickets. Oh, yes. Okay. I want to do the video that we have. So let me share that with our audience. Yes, yes, yes. So we jumped from one thing, but we'll come back to the United Nations thing. But I happened to click on that, and so here we are. Let's
Here we
talk.
are.
And this is Black History Month, and so we're celebrating an icon here with Miss Trina. So you want to share more about her, and she will be our moment in Black history.
Yes. Miss Trina Parks. Yes, Miss Trina Parks. She was the first Black Bond woman. And and she was in the movie Diamonds and Are Forever. And in she that was that's monumental simply because prior to that there were no Black women who actually played alongside of James Bond, and it was obvious that the James Bond series was becoming iconic, and everyone in there, basically they became legacy people. She went on to go into choreography, into teaching dance, and she does activist work. So Ms. Parks has done, and she's gone into film production and film direction. And so she has done, quite a bit, and she stays in the mainstream, and she actually is very active out there in with Black issues, with students as well as with women's issues, and then with Black issues as in general, and even working, here recently with the Black Lives Matters. So it's sometimes these are those unsung heroes that you don't realize, but what she did, and the reason why my organization, Women Leading Change Now, we are going to be giving her our Trailblazer Award, and we don't give that out lightly to anyone. We give that out for how they live their lives. Are you just simply getting the accolades and the awards, what you won today, or are you doing something, with your fame and fortune that you have? She's one, she's blazing a trail, and she's doing quite a bit with that. The only other person that we did give that award to was Nichelle Nichols, and many of you will remember her for her role as Uhura on Star Trek. But what many people don't know what she did, and that was she basically took it upon herself through her organization, and she went out across the nation, across the United States, and to all our territories, and she promoted bringing Black men and Black women into the astronaut program. And so, therefore, what you actually saw those years after her stint with Star Trek in the 60s, she is the one that is very instrumental in bringing and opening those doors for those other Mae Jemison and and others into the astronaut program. And as well as she went around to many of the different HSBC colleges and spoke to those instructors and the professors and the students to get their interest in going into NASA. And our director now, who is at the Houston Space Center, Vanessa Weinstein, she was one who she spoke very highly of Nichelle Nichols because she encouraged her, and now she's director over that Houston
Oh,
Space Center.
wow.
That's a Black woman, and she's doing a phenomenal job there. So guess what, Houston, we don't have a problem.
We don't have a problem.
We don't have a problem.
Oh my goodness. Well, that is just so awesome. And so she's being honored on Friday in
Yes.
Doraville, and you can get your tickets. We have it scrolling where you can get your tickets on Eventbrite. It's called Diamonds on Evening. And Diamonds, an evening of celebrating Trina Parks. Again, the first African American who was on
James Bond. Diamonds are forever.
Diamonds Are
Are
Forever.
forever.
Yes.
And that was just such a, it was so appropriate, to be on a show with that name. It's just so memorable, for what she did. in, these are people who, they blaze a trail and they keep on going. They don't stop. They don't just stop with that one thing that they're doing. They keep going. And they
Yes.
use their fame and their fortune to pull others along with them.
Yes, that's awesome. That is so awesome. And words cannot express how much I appreciate you coming on and saving the day. And so let's get back to the United Nations conference because it is going to be power packed. It is going to be full of all kinds of educational experiences for those who are going to participate. And you've even got a couple of youth that are going to be involved to share from their perspective as
Exactly.
well.
As well, yes. Because what we have to have there, this is our future. Just as we were the future yesterday. And so the future is here. The past, the present, and the future truly exist as one. And so, we are part of our past, we are in our present, and we are building for our future.
Yeah,
And what we have to do is we definitely have to build up the youth. I
absolutely.
was at a just in October of last year, and it was somewhat of an embarrassment. I was at a Nassau conference, and the gentleman who was at the podium doing the keynote speaking, he asked that everyone, he wanted the people in the room, he said, I want you to stand up in the room if you're 50 and over. So pretty much almost the whole room stood up. Okay. Then he said, okay, now I want you to sit down if you are over 30. So pretty much most of the people sat back down. And so he said, well, okay, if I got some 30 somethings in here, would you all just walk up to the front? Because obviously it's not that many of you. And it wasn't. It was a shame. It was 900 people at that conference sitting there having dinner. And it was probably 30 people who were under 30.
Oh my goodness. So
He
we
said,
got work to do.
that's exactly what he said. He you took the you must feel his spirit because that's exactly what he said. He said we got work to do. He said this is a problem. He said because if he said all of you, he said I can only imagine. He said I'm not going to date y'all and say how old you really are. He said but if you're 50 and over, chances are we couldn't hamstring you and tie you up to the ship to get on no ship. How much you going up on a rocket? He said, but now he says so. Therefore, when we go out there in space, he said the ones that are going to be going out there are the ones who are 30 and younger, the younger people. They have no fear. He said, I might get some up to maybe about 50, maybe a 60-year-old, who, just that go-getter. But I'm not gonna get the bulk of you all to go anywhere off this planet. Y'all be back there building all day long, but you're not gonna get off this planet. And
Wow.
so he says, if that's the case, then we've got a big problem. What are you all doing? I mean, he basically came from behind the podium and he gets somebody said, bring me a chair up here on this stage. And he took his jacket off, he rolled up his sleeves, and he said, this is atrocious. He said, this is a travesty. He says, did you say you all sitting here? He said, you are the leaders in this industry. You are the heads of organizations. You are the heads of state. You are the heads of your corporations. And you're not hiring anybody younger and bringing them, to these different consortiums so that they can learn and understand and know. He said, somebody brought you. He said, now one of you in here came on your own. Somebody brought you. Somebody recommended you. Somebody suggested that you go into, the space program in some shape, form, or fashion. And
Yeah,
say you can't do the same thing. And
we
I mean,
got it.
he lit when he left out of there. It was
But
on. It was on. We had got a spanking out of this world.
Yes, well, that tells us, we've got to bring our young people into our future because they're
Yeah,
not just our future, they are the present. And
yes,
we need to really embrace them and train them and encourage them, inspire them, uplift them, and educate them. And I know that what you do is much a part of that. And so I truly thank you for everything that you are doing, the righteous, honorable Yvonne Gamble. I appreciate you. And I am, I thank you for coming. And, we've got 4 minutes. And one of the things that I wanted to do was honor my sister who lost her battle with cancer on this day 7 years ago. And so I am going to conclude my show with us listening to her singing. I can't remember what song it is because it's the group. And so I'm going to put that on. We're going to conclude our show with that. And again, I want to thank you all for listening. And it looks like we have another. Oh, Vivian says, thank you, ladies. It was good. Gotta go. Well,
go.
thank you very much for being
Thank you,
here.
Vivian.
Yes. And so, okay, so I'm going to bring you down from the platform. I'm going to put her on, and then I'm going to say my last goodbyes to you in a minute, okay? She says
Okay.
something else. She says, I remember your sis, loved her singing. Well, we're getting ready to hear her now. And so I want to thank you, listening audience, for being here. And I will see you. I've got another show coming on at 8 o'clock with the Trailblazers, part two. And so I'm looking forward to that. So please enjoy listening to my sister.
talk about